well as on Zoom. Yay! All right. UUCLC is an inclusive, non-creedal fellowship that works for a just community and fosters a lifelong search for personal spiritual fulfillment. We gratefully acknowledge that we gather today on the homeland of the Timucua Native people whose ancestral homeland this is. I'm Chris Cleveland, and I'm thrilled to be your service leader this morning as we reopen after more than a year and a half. So, and by the way, you might have noticed our solar array rack has been installed and it's waiting for panels, and another yay. Today, the world celebrates United Nations Day, and many Unitarian Universalist congregations are marking this holiday by hosting a United Nations Sunday service themed All In for climate justice, food equity, and sustainability. Let's take a deep breath of gratitude. Doug, I need your help. And we're going to have everybody in the audience here wave to those on Zoom. So wait a minute till the man not behind the curtain. Okay, let's wave.
I got to do this slowly. It'll make everybody dizzy.
All right.
Did we get everybody?
Yeah, okay. Okay. And also welcome to Reverend Kathy over here. Kathy Schmitz, who will deliver our message today, A Faithful Response. She will be speaking to us once a month through December. And she resides with her husband, Charlie, over here in a 100% solar home that powers their 2 electric cars. Her ministry works toward creating a sustainable world for all of Earth's inhabitants. And we're always happy to hear your messages, Reverend Kathy. First, I have some announcements. We're trying to keep everyone safe here and still have an enjoyable service. Please be patient as our team of volunteers gets this process figured out. This is our first time doing this, so please be patient. This service will be recorded except for the joys and concerns and discussion after the service. And those of you on Zoom, please stay muted and we will call on you. Everybody here is muted with their mask. Please check out our weekly service bulletin attached to your Sunday service email. There's many activities going on this week, both in person and on Zoom. If you are interested in receiving our weekly bulletin or learning more about us, send an email to office@uulakecounty.org or leave your email in the chat so that we can contact you. I will now turn the microphone over to the Zoom room. Kristen, are you ready? Give me a thumbs up. Whoops.
Good morning, Christy.
Wait. Okay, I'll just.
All right, thank you. It's amazing. We have so many wonderful mics picking up all our wonderful sound. I just wanted to give a quick acknowledgement to all the folks on Zoom. We can see you. And you're in the sanctuary on the big screen for everyone to see. So does anyone have an announcement that they'd like to make this morning who's in the Zoom group? We have about, 22 people or so on our Zoom service added to the folks. Christy, how many folks are in the sanctuary roughly? $22? All right, so that brings us up to about 39 people altogether so far on our service. That makes about 44 counting couples. So wonderful. Thank you all and welcome. Does anyone have an announcement from the Zoom room? We're looking around our gallery. If you have it, raise your hand and we will call on you. Okay. Don't see anyone. Back to you, Christy. Unmute.
Kristen, you also need to ask if anybody there has any joys or concerns, and they can state them. So I'm going to go back to you.
All right. Anybody have joys or concerns that they'd like to add to this service this morning? Raise your hand so we can see you. I see my friend Bill Bear up in Fredericksburg, but he doesn't have any video. So I'm waving back. Good morning, Bill. Ted Fessler's joining us. Don't see anybody raising their hand. Go ahead, Christy, back to you.
Okay, are there any announcements from anyone here? Oh, I wasn't supposed to do that. If you are visiting the building for the first time today, raise your hand if you are comfortable doing so. Do we have any new people? Welcome. Okay, well, I'm glad to meet you. What's your name? Karen. Oh, yes. Because you joined one of our groups, I believe. Yeah. All right, so we have Karen who is new here. She's been here on Zoom. All right. The lighting of a chalice is a moment shared by Unitarian Universalists throughout the world. Today, our chalice will be lit by Jenna and Ernie Rossi. Hopefully. I mean, perhaps. I'll come to you. Okay. I should put my mask on.
A little more wick. Can you
We're
stick
out
more
of-
out? Is that it?
We're out of it. There's no more wick in it. So, do you want to try a match? Okay. Committed to respond to the call of a wounded world, we join together this day with loving hearts, hands, and minds. Embracing the interconnected web of water, air, and earth, we light a fire of sustaining hope, ever bright with love and justice. May we bring forth this day new wisdom, strength, and courage to create a new world, not of wealth, but well-being, a world of new peace and abundance for all. As we give thanks for this earth, our shared and singular home, may we dedicate ourselves to its ongoing care, rising to the calls deep within us and all around us. May we respond today and always with courage and with love. Let's listen to Spirit of Life. You may hum along. Each Sunday, we make time for those who wish to offer a joy or concern. This portion of our service will not be recorded. Deep breath.
You've muted, Christy. We can't, there you go. Let us remember what we aspire to be by reciting together our congregational covenant. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. That is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. It is our practice at UUCLC to give generously to our church as we are able, and keeping in mind both its meaning in our lives and its impact on the world. We are thankful for the time, talent, and treasure that our members and friends provide to further the ministry of this congregation. You may donate today if you're in the building in the locked box back under the clock by the door of the sanctuary, or in the link in the chat box on Zoom. Thank you for your donation today.
The tide is rising, and so are we. is rising, and so are we. The tide is rising, and so are we. This is where we are called to be. This is where we are called to be. The task is mighty, and so are we. The task is mighty, and so are we. The task is mighty, and so are we. This is where we are called to be. This is where we are called to be. This land is holy, and so are we. This land is holy, and so are we. This land is holy, and so are we. This is where we are called to be. This is where we are called to be. The storm is raging, and so are we. The storm is raging, and so are we. The storm is raging, and so are we. This is where we are called to be. This is where we are called to be. The sun is shining, and so are we. The sun is shining, and so are we. The sun is shining, and so are we. This is where we are called to be. This is where we are called to be. The world is ready, and so are we. The world is ready, and so are we. The world is ready, and so are we. This is where we are called to be. This is where we are called to be. This is where we are called to be.
Need to unmute from the podium. Christy, could you help her out?
How's that? I can tip it.
You're looking great. Go ahead, Kathy.
Okay. It is an honor to be with you on your reopening Sunday and to see your smiling faces. I've been preaching on Zoom for the last year and a half, and while that's really easy because I can just roll out of bed and do that, it's really nice to have you here today. So thank you so much for being here. And I want to give a special shout out to your worship planning team, RAP, and to Christy and to your tech folks who have been just amazing getting this all ready. So we have the opportunity for the spiritual practices of patience and compassion over the next couple of weeks as this all gets sorted out. But I think in the long run, it's going to give you some really wonderful options for you when you're traveling or unwell, and in the future you'll be able to come to church no matter what. So I'm going to start with a story, and I want to acknowledge that it's inspired by a story by Megan McKenna, but I've changed it enough that I felt the need to rename it, and I call it Growing Peace. One morning, two friends went out walking. It started out fine, but as they often did on their morning walks, they fell to sharing their despair about the state of the world. They both wanted peace. They wanted peace in their hearts and peace in the world. And they knew that their friends at the congregation wanted the same thing. And yet, day after day, their news feeds were full of depressing and not very peaceful news. They were so caught up in their conversation that they wandered into an area they didn't usually go. And there they noticed an unfamiliar store. It looked interesting, so they pulled up their masks and went inside. There was only one worker inside, staffing being a problem in many places, but the person's eyes were kind and the store had a nice vibe. Logan greeted the worker and inquired as to what they sold in the store. Really, just about anything, came the reply. Take a look around, and if you see anything you want, just let me know. As they walked through the aisles, Aubrey exclaimed, "This is amazing." Together, they browsed the astonishing options. There was an end to poverty, freedom from addiction, economic justice. There was peace on earth. In fact, there was a whole section of peace selections: peace in families, peace in schools, peace in the streets. The choices included a robust democracy, immigrant justice, and an end to racism. So many choices. Logan pulled out 2 pieces of paper and handed one to Aubrey. They both began making lists. They added clean air and water and sustainable energy and freedom. Finally, they headed back to the counter. The worker looked over their list and with smiling eyes said, "No problem." After rummaging under the counter for a few minutes, the worker laid out a collection of packets. "What are those?" inquired Aubrey. "Seed packets," said the clerk. "We don't get what we picked out," said Logan. "This is a place of vision, a place for you to imagine the world you want to live in, to imagine the world you want to help create. You take the seeds, plant them with care, tend to their needs, and as they grow, your dreams will emerge and be ready to benefit someone else." Logan and Aubrey looked at each other wide-eyed. Then Logan scoffed and with a shake of the head, walked out. Aubrey remained, gazing at the packets and considering. And we'll leave Aubrey considering while we take time to reflect for just a moment on how we might respond. We plant seeds that help our intentions grow. So I invite you to join me in a spirit of meditation and reflection. Imagine it there in the palm of your hand, a seed. A seed. Is it large or small, rough or smooth, dark or light? Your seed, the seed of your intention. We know that when we plant an apple seed, with luck and care, an apple tree will grow. We know that when we plant a pear seed, there is no chance, really no chance, regardless of care and luck, no chance that an apple tree will grow. Imagine your seed in the palm of your hands. What do you hope to grow? And is that the seed you want? And are you willing to tend it very carefully? Imagine your seed, your intention in the palm of your hand. Plant what you want to grow. And let us just take 3 breaths as we share a moment of shared silence. May we choose and plant and tend with care. I invite you to imagine a small village of 50 families back in the old days when the town common was still used as a common grazing area. Each family has one cow, which they graze daily on the town common. All is well until one family comes into possession of a second cow. Now there are 51 cows grazing on the town common. Other families notice how much that second cow benefits the other families, and so more families begin to get a second cow. Each family that gets an additional cow benefits, and so the town is in a pretty good mood, except for one thing. By the time that everyone in town has 2 cows, some have begun to notice that the common is looking a little less green. In fact, it's begun to look downright bedraggled. Quietly, folks begin to wonder if maybe there are too many cows. Several families begin to think that perhaps 2 cows per family are too many, but it sure is nice to have that extra milk and cheese. And what difference does their 1 cow make anyway? Eventually, the common is destroyed. Each family benefited from their individual overuse of the common. That benefit was direct and visible, far more visible than the collective harm that was being done. So the question is asked, how many cows was too many? We don't know exactly how many cows the common could support. I guess technically we know it was someplace between 50 and 100. But which cow was 1 cow too many? And I would contend that it was cow number 51. Because whether that commons could sustain 55 or 95 cows, the problem occurred when people started to believe that for their own good, they could take more than their share of a common resource. Cow number 51 was a tragedy of the commons. Garrett Hardin first provided this description of the tragedy of the commons, as he called it, in 1968. Certainly, over 50 years later, we can find many examples in our world. Now, I want to acknowledge that this is not a vegan example, but this is how the tragedy was originally described. And so I invite any fellow vegans to come along with me. In our increasingly complex world, we often do not see the harm that comes from our choices, the harm that impacts lands and people far away from us. Sometimes we know intellectually, right? We know that our choices matter, but that knowledge is hard to internalize, as it was in our hypothetical village. Without an awareness of our individual impact, our villagers fail to act for the common good. But could it have gone another way? The common resource, in this case, the town common, could support 50 to 100 cows. So if we divide that by 50 families, we find that each family gets to graze 1 and a fraction of a cow. But cows don't come in fractions, so the families need to choose to graze either 1 or 2 cows. If they graze 1, they will be within their share of the common resource. If they graze 2, they will be over it. Now I realize, just for those of you who are already thinking it, that they could share cows. But to keep the example simple, let's assume that we'll talk about sharing another day. So 1 cow or 2 cows. There are several things that could happen, right? Perhaps nothing will happen, and as in the original telling of the tragedy of the commons, the common will be destroyed. Perhaps someone will recognize the problem, and after much commotion, much commotion, a law will be passed, allowing only 1 cow per family to be grazed. But perhaps people will choose on their own, when they realize the problem, they will actually choose on their own to limit their grazing to 1 cow. Which do you think is most likely? Which do you think is most preferable? I'll tell you that I actually wrote that section for a version of this sermon up at our friends at Tri-County just before the pandemic. And I actually think I was more optimistic about what people would choose back then. Each person in the community is part of a web that includes the people, the cows, the common, and for that web to remain strong, each person must consider the whole. So let's consider what our Unitarian Universalist Association's principles might say about our village and its web of relationships. If we bring in the last of our principles first, the 7th principle of the Unitarian Universalist Association says that we affirm and promote respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. Now, in suggesting that people recognize the whole, the web, are we violating our first Unitarian Universalist principle? The first principle says that we affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person. So is there a conflict? No, there's not, because the principle does not say the inherent worth and dignity of me. It says the inherent worth and dignity of every person. And if I affirm that, I affirm not only my rights, but yours. Related to this is use of the word dignity. Dignity, according to Webster's, is a quality of or state of being honored, worthy, or esteemed. Nothing in this definition allows for our first principle to be used to justify selfishness. There is nothing dignified about being selfish. This is why I dispute the claim by some that there's a conflict between the inherent worth and dignity of every person and an affirmation of the web of which we are a part. Our principles, I would say, do not contradict each other, but rather play off each other in wonderful ways. We're part of a web of existence that is both beautiful and complex. This principle challenges us to be aware of the relationships embedded in that web. Our view of the intricacies of the web will always be limited. At times we will make mistakes, but we can try. I do believe that our principles encourage us to nurture and to cultivate those relationships in the most peaceful, just, and sustainable way possible. We could work through the principles, but we'll save that also for another day. But I think if we did work through all the principles, we would find quite consistently that our shared faith calls us to strive to align our thoughts, our words, and our deeds so that we do not harm the common good. And I think we could even conclude that our thoughts, words, and deeds are called to benefit the common good. Perhaps one of the most significant shared resources in danger today is our shared atmosphere. In particular, the accumulation of greenhouse gases and resulting climate change. Now, I'm not going to try to convince you that climate change is real and that human choices can make a difference. I leave that to the vast majority of the scientific community. And even if you have not been convinced of the seriousness of climate change, I invite you to go on this journey with me and to consider the possibility that the steps we can take to limit climate change would be positive steps, even if 97% of the climate scientists are wrong. If we accept that we have a responsibility to the common good, the global common good, we might allow ourselves to recognize that our consumption patterns here, sitting here in Lake County at what I understand to be about 69 feet above sea level, will affect sea level rise and will impact not just the Florida coastline, but communities, cities, and nations all around the world. So how might we develop a spirituality of climate change? What might a faithful response to this threat to our common good look like for us here and now in Central Florida in 2021? I would suggest that a spirituality of climate change would be deeply embedded in relationship, our connections. Now, I have long defined spirituality as what connects us to something beyond ourselves. For some people, that's human community. For some, it's the divine, others, the universe, for some, the natural world. What helps you? What helps you feel connected and grounded? With what do you relate deeply, and how do you feel that relationship? I once heard that a child who has a significant out of doors experience before the age of 9 or 10 would be forever impacted and would be much more likely to care about the environment as an adult. Once established, that relationship stays. Now, not all of us had that opportunity as children, but I believe that we can all benefit from nurturing our connection to the natural world at any age, in whatever way makes sense for each of us. How might you take your relationship with nature just a little bit deeper? How might you take your relationship with nature just a little deeper? How might you create a deeper connection? Walking in the woods, gardening, nature poetry, art, other possibilities for sure. The beauty of deepening our connection to the natural world is that it's not one size fits all. What would fit for you? And inspired by that deepened connection, might we feel inspired to further action just a little bit further? It might help to remember that an action doesn't need to be grand to have an impact. Certainly not all of us are going to live deeply embedded in nature, though there certainly are some fabulous places in the area here to experience nature. But there are possibilities wherever we find ourselves, tenderly caring for a seedling on a windowsill of a 5th floor apartment in a city central can provide an important understanding and appreciation to our relationship with the rest of life on Earth. And this is important as we consider the plans for our children in our lives. Might nature be part of your next visit with a grandchild, a great niece or nephew, or other special children in your lives as a way of nurturing them and your relationship? And might that in turn influence how you think about our shared planet? Now, I know that at least some of the folks in this congregation have a commitment to countering climate change. I've been talking with you before the service, and I've known about that before. Some of us call it a climate emergency. And surely there are lots of concrete steps that you can take to lower your energy consumption in many ways. How exciting that you are in the process of having solar panels installed right here at your congregation. That's incredible. Some of you have been learning about the impact of animal agriculture, which a United Nations report confirms accounts for over 50% of greenhouse gases. But like our connections and spirituality, it's not one size fits all. While I eat a plant-based diet, have solar panels on my roof, and drive an electric car, I am seriously challenged with regard to long-distance travel. All my children and grandchildren live at a distance, and I want to see them. I'm still learning how to minimize that impact. Part of my spiritual practice is to build a moment of reflection into my decision-making regarding consumption throughout the day. This helps particularly when I fall into that automatic pilot sort of thing, Why am I making this choice? Is there a choice more in keeping with my values, my aspirations? And it's important to note that in different circumstances, my reflection will yield different ultimate results. Let me risk a seemingly simple example, getting dinner on the table. When our daughters were young and still at home, and I was preparing dinner for the family, I wanted it to be healthy. I wanted it to be easy to prepare, and I wanted it to be tasty. After all, I wanted them to eat it. I also wanted it to be economical. And I always want our meals to be ethical, to have a low impact on the environment. And oh yeah, fairly traded, organic, and local would all be good, right? Any two of those criteria can conflict with each other. You can wear yourself out trying to do it. Did anybody here pull that off this week? I've once had somebody raise a hand when I asked that question, and I didn't get to follow up. So sorry. My reading, for me, when money is tight, economical wins out over organic. My reading tells me that if I have to choose between local and organic, local has the lesser environmental impact. So I would choose local, except perhaps if I was dealing with someone with a sensitive condition, say an infant, then I might choose organic. If I'm exhausted and time is short, easy to prepare wins. I rarely meet my own standards. I can't have it all. I have to make choices. This does not mean I do not respect my own values. This does not mean I don't respect my own values. It simply means that I have a deep and abiding respect for reality. This, in turn, creates an opportunity for the practice of compassion, so that I can be kind when I don't meet my own standards, and when other people don't meet my standards. It is good to nurture compassion because the work before us can be hard. I mean, if I can't even get dinner on the table without serious dilemmas, how do I propose to be part of creating a peaceful, just, and sustainable world for all the world's inhabitants? Our work is hard. It's full of ambiguity and compromise, and we are called to do it anyway. In this time, when hope can be hard to find, making a difference each in our own small way can be an act of resistance, a resistance that keeps humanity from tumbling headfirst into our own worst impulses. We are called to hold up our values, look reality straight in the eye, and make choices and set priorities. And this is why our spiritual and grounding practices matter. And cultivating our relationships is one such practice, our relationships with each other, with our planet, and with all life on Earth. Our spiritual and grounding practices matter because they can help us to find joy in the choosing. And this is perhaps the ultimate spiritual practice, finding joy. Because we can remember that each and every time we make a choice, we have a chance to plant a seed of kindness, a seed of care. Every time, if we remember this, we can find joy in the choosing. Our decisions are the seeds we sow. Our willingness to open our hearts and our minds to deep connections to the earth and to all its inhabitants, this opens us. It allows us to plant seeds and to nurture and grow the common good. Today, I encourage this tending of the garden of the heart, so that any action we choose may be grounded in a deeper sense of spiritual relationship with the earth, human community, and all life on earth. This week, perhaps you will find one new way to connect yourself to the earth on a daily basis. Or perhaps you'll revive an old practice that has faded away. Along the way, May you nurture along the way, may you nurture an abiding respect for reality, a practice of reflection and intention, and always compassion and joy. May it be so.
Low below me, I feel no motion, standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean. Still my dry land heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. Sun, my sail, and moon, my rudder, as I ply the starry sea, leaning over the edge in wonder, casting questions into the deep, drifting here with my ship's companions, all we kindred pilgrim souls, making our way by the lights of the heavens in our beautiful blue boat home. I give thanks to the waves upholding me, hail the great winds urging me on, greet the infinite sea before me, sing the sky my sailor's song. I was born upon the fathoms, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home.
Thank you, Peter Mayer. When we opened this building for the very first time, he was our minister here. Yeah. Our closing words today are by Jim McGaw. When I say go in peace, I don't mean go in mindless oblivion. When I say go in peace, I don't mean go without challenging yourself and others. When I say go in peace, I don't mean go in utter ease and comfort. When I say go in peace, I mean go in peace, seeking justice. I mean go in peace, committed to equal rights and opportunities for all. When I say go in peace, I mean go in the peace that is created when together we build communities of true solidarity, deep compassion, and fierce, unrelenting love. Go in peace. I will now extinguish the chalice. Our closing hymn will be Circle Round for Freedom.
Draw the circle wide. Draw the circle wide. No one stands alone, we'll stand side by side. Draw the circle wide.
Your sadness and in your grief, with all the pain, seems there's no relief. So Spirit, teach us how to love without compromise. As we draw the circle wide. This be our song. You see that no one, as we're standing side by side, draw a circle wide. And draw the circle wide. And draw it wider. And let this be our song.
I can't wait till we can sing out loud. That will be nice. Okay, you may join the after-service discussion on the Zoom service link. For those of you in person, please wait to be dismissed from the back of the room and then go outside before you chat with others. And when you get outside, staying socially distanced, if you both agree, you can remove your masks. Wow. Thank you, everyone. What a wonderful service. Thank you, Kathy.